Good morning and welcome to another episode of Live Without Limits, the Success Shift. Think like your future self. I'm your host, Davida Shinsky, and in this episode, we're exploring one of the most universal and most misunderstood struggles that people face: self-sabotage. We all do it to some extent. It's just a matter of to what extent and how much you want to change. So, you know that moments when you want success, but you don't hesitate to take the next step. You want love, but you push people away. You want to grow, but you talk yourself into opportunity, out of opportunities. You want change, but you cling to what's familiar. That's not failure. That's not laziness. That's not lack of discipline. That is self sabotage. It's something that we do because we're hearing in our heads the things that we were programmed into many years ago as children. How many times have you heard a parent or a teacher say to you, "You're a failure. You can't succeed. You don't have what it takes"? These are tapes that you hear over and over again in your head. And until you reprogram that thinking, you will continue to sabotage yourself. So, we're going to uncover the psychology behind it, why it happens, and where it starts, and how to break through the patterns that keep you from becoming the person you want and know that you're capable of being. This episode is personal, emotional, and transformational. So let's get started. The first time I realized I was sabotaging myself was when, as a child, constantly, my mother was a negative person, and all she ever did was criticize and criticize. And as a young child, you take personally the things that someone tells you about yourself. But as you get older, as you start to take control over your thinking, then you begin to realize what is being done to you and how you are beginning to sabotage yourself. So I want to share something from my own journey, a moment that opened my eyes to how self-sabotage sneaks into our lives without even noticing. Years ago, I remember preparing for a major opportunity, something I had dreamed about for a long time. I had the skills, I had the passion, I had the support. Everything was ready, but instead of feeling confident, I froze. I suddenly started overthinking. I questioned whether I was qualified. I worried about what others might say. I convinced myself it wasn't the right time. I dragged my feet. I delayed. I procrastinated. I minimized my work. I talked myself out of taking the next step. Then, when the opportunity slipped away, I told myself this story. Maybe it wasn't meant to be, but deep down, I knew something else. I had sabotaged myself. For one thing, growing up with a disability, I didn't have the same opportunities to go and work and get gainful employment where I had upward mobility. And therefore, I struggled financially. And when I couldn't find gainful employment, I started my own business on a shoestring budget. But only through persistence and the advent of technology did things begin to turn around for me. One of the things many years ago that I wanted to start was an organization that would serve people with disabilities who wanted to start their own business to help them get ahead. I went through the process of getting all the paperwork together to start the nonprofit. But then when it came time to actually put the funds in place, I did not have the funds and did not have a board or people who would support me or help me get it going. And instead of finding ways to find some of those people, I kind of let it drop. But it's always been a dream that I hope eventually will come to pass. I got in my own way. I was the one who let doubt, fear, and old beliefs take control. It was painful realization, but it changed my life because once I saw the pattern, I could begin to break it. And that's what I want to help you do today. What is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is not a flaw. It's not weakness. It's not a lack of willpower. Self-sabotage is a protective response. It's your mind saying success feels unfamiliar, visibility feels scary, growth feels risky, change feels unsafe, comfort feels safer than potential. Your brain is wired to keep you safe, not successful. And because your brain equates familiar with safe, it will sabotage anything that threatens your old identity. Remember, you and only you have the control over what happens in your life. Parents will often try to relive their glory days or try to gain success in something that they want as opposed to what you want. It's, are you going to allow them to control you and dictate to you, or are you going to break away? And sometimes breaking away from that family means totally having nothing to do with them. And by doing so, what are you doing? You are living the life you choose and not allowing someone else to dictate your life. Behind me, you see it says invest in yourself. Only you can invest in yourself because others may only try to invest in you if they feel like there's a benefit to them. And only you can succeed by your self-determination. And yes, we do need help along the way because we cannot do things ourselves. If that was true, that we could do things ourselves, then there's no reason why I shouldn't have been able to achieve setting up that nonprofit on my own. But especially because it takes financing and it takes funding to build a business. Now today, with technology, it's easier to do with virtually very little money. But when I was trying to start my nonprofit back in the 90s, you didn't have the technology that you have today. And therefore, you did not have the opportunities. And there are sites that you can go on today that can truly help you with building and finding financing. Whereas back in the day, when I was involved with setting up my nonprofit, you had only the corporations to go to, and it had to be something that they were interested in helping you do in order to get that financing, because they're the ones who needed to be on your board to help you do fundraising. I know people who started nonprofits, and what did they do? They put all their friends on their board. Well, that's great if you have friends to put on your board, but if they don't have the experience of going out and doing fundraising, if they can't go out and speak at different organizations to help bring funding to your organization or set up fundraising programs, then it's very difficult to get that program up and running. So comfort feels safer than potential. Your brain is already keeping you safe, not successful. And because your brain equates familiar with safe, it will sabotage anything that threatens your old identity. Self-sabotage is your old self fighting your future self. And remember that you have to be the one to take control. You have to be the one to decide which way you want to go. Because unless you choose success, no amount of what anyone does or says to you can change anything. So why we sabotage ourselves? There are 5 core psychological roots of self-sabotage. Fear of failure. If I don't try, I can't fail. You protect yourself from disappointment, the blocking of the possibility of success. And I remember this being said of, think of it like a car that you're driving. You're working your way forward, but what happens just as you're about to achieve success? You put your foot on the brake, and when you put your foot on the brake, you stop. You don't go any further. The second one is fear of success. What if I change? What if others expect more from me? Success can feel threatened if you've been conditioned to minimize yourself. And where does that come from? That comes from childhood. That comes from someone telling you and creating a situation where they themselves don't want to see you be more successful for them, so they will sabotage you. And then what do? You take that and make it gospel as though it's the truth. The third thing is low self-worth. I don't deserve this. If you don't believe that you're worthy, you'll subconsciously reject what is meant for you. Remember that. Self-worth. What is that? That's how you see yourself. That's how you see yourself in relationship to other people. If you feel inferior to someone else, then instead of doing what's right for you, you're going to try to emulate them and their success, because what is that doing for you? Oh, well, it's, for one thing, trying to make yourself feel better. My sister is deaf, and for many years, all she heard was, you can't, you can't, you can't. And then my mother looked at her education and my education as something to keep us busy, but not a means to an end. Therefore, she never graduated college, because instead of focusing in on her road to success, She followed everyone else's road to success. So think about those things. Are you doing what's right for you, or are you following someone else? Now, what is good leadership? Well, leadership is being the leader, not being the follower. Some people are followers as opposed to leaders, but you can learn to become a good leader. Unhealed traumas or emotional wounds. Your past teaches you to avoid what once hurt you, even if it could help you now. And that's the biggest thing, that you have to look back. Now, I was talking to someone recently, and she started experiencing seizures, but hers are not true epileptic seizures as much as that all of a sudden she'll get a glassy look over her face and she's like not there. And then it comes back. But all of that is because if you think of your brain as software and all the information that you take in and all the traumas that you experience and how you turn around and block those traumas in your life, what are you doing? Well, let's put it this way. That will eventually come back to haunt you because all of that information that you took in, that you blocked out, is still in there. You've not dealt with it. You've not experienced the pain and then found a way to deal with that pain so that eventually it breaks away and it causes other issues. So think about how all of the things that you are doing today and how they can affect you in your life in the future. Identify conflict. Your old identity says, this is what we've always been. Your future identity says, this is who we're becoming. Self-sabotage is the collision between those two identities. Remember when we go from winter to spring and you have all of those horrible hurricanes and storms? What is that? That's the cold weather coming up against the warm weather and the breaking and the fusion of it and how it creates a storm. Well, that's the same thing of what's going on. It's the collision of your two fronts and the collision of your two identities. Now, let's talk about how what sabotage is. There's a moment that I'll never forget. I was working with someone who asked me a simple question. Why do you keep pulling back right when things start going well? No one had ever asked me that directly. My first instinct was to defend myself, to rationalize and explain. But when I sat with the question, something cracked open in me. I realized I wasn't afraid of falling. I was afraid of expanding. I was afraid of stepping into a version of myself that I had never seen before, a version that didn't match the stories I'd been told growing up, a version I didn't have a model for, a version that required me to release the identity that I had spent years surviving through. And in that moment, I understood self-sabotage isn't about avoiding failure. It's about avoiding transformation, because transformation requires you to become someone new, and your old self fights to hold on. But transformation is also where your power lives, your purpose, your next chapter. Okay, let's explore that. As a child, often you're told one thing about your life, but then as you get older, you begin to realize who you are. And I'm going to also equate this to personality styles, because some people are extroverts and some people are introverts. But here's the thing: an extrovert can be someone who has a dominant personality, who feels like they can control every situation they're in. Then these person who has very good interpersonal skills, that they can easily talk to strangers, easily make friends. Then you got the introvert who has the conscientiousness personality, who questions everything before they make a decision. Therefore, they're slow to make a decision. Then you've also got the S personality, which is the steadiness personality. And that personality likes to literally read the manual of the company and literally follow the manual of the company. We all have these within us. Some of them are our strengths, some of them are our weaknesses. That's why often, if your strength is to be very outgoing, then you need someone to work with you who's the total opposite, because that way you balance each other out and you work together to make it all come together and be successful. Therefore, understanding all of these things, understanding where they come from, understanding how to make them all work together, is how success happens. Because remember, you can't do it all alone. You do need a support system. Now, how do we start sabotaging ourselves? Here is the 4-step process to break self sabotage. Awareness. Catch the pattern. Ask yourself, what do I do when things start going well? Where do I hesitate when I should move forward? Where do I hold myself back? What emotions show up when opportunity appears? What limiting beliefs follow me? Awareness is liberation. Step two, interrupt the cycle. When you feel yourself procrastinating, shrinking, avoiding, overthinking, minimizing, self criticizing, stop. Literally say out loud, what is a sabotage pattern? Naming it immediately weakens it and its grip on you. Understand the fear behind the behavior. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of that will happen if I succeed? What identity am I afraid to step into? Who told me I wasn't capable? What old belief am I protecting? Most sabotage is rooted in pain from your past, not your present reality. Now, you see how we're talking about how all of what happens to you in the past later comes back and influences your life later in life and keeps you from succeeding. Therefore, understanding and looking back. That's why when Freud talked about trauma and how he related it all to the brain, he was talking in terms that of how our past influence our present and our future. Take one aligned action from your future self. Sabotage lives in inactivity. It thrives in hesitation. It grows in avoidance. Action breaks the pattern, not big action, just aligned action. And then ask yourself, what would the future version of me do right now? Then do that. Be consistent because every time you take a step, your old identity fears, you move one step closer to the life that your new identity desires. Now, here's a reflection moment. Let yourself expand. Take a deep breath in. Place your hand on your heart and ask yourself, where am I getting my own way? What am I afraid of becoming? What part of my identity is still trying to protect me? Self sabotage isn't your enemy, it's a wounded part of you asking for safety, asking for reassurance, asking for healing. You do not need to hate or judge this part of yourself. You just need to lead it. And that is the crust of everything that we're talking about today. How you can take better control of your life and how you can put yourself into a position of succeeding. And success takes you to the final step, which is empowerment. You are stronger than your patterns. You are wiser than your fears. And you are worthy of everything you keep stopping yourself from pursuing. Self sabotage is not a sign that you're broken, it's a sign that you're growing beyond your old identity. Your future self is coming and bringing you forward. Your potential is asking to be seen, and your next chapter is waiting for you to stop pulling back. Today, make a promise to yourself. I will no longer be the one who gets in my way, because the moment you stop sabotaging yourself, you start liberating yourself. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is a I want you to think about this. If you're writing a book, if you're building your message, or stepping into your next chapter, audiobooks are one of the most powerful ways to share your voice. Now, if you have a book that you've written and you do not have it put into an audiobook, then you are leaving money on the table. So I offer professional audiobook creation services, and you don't have to record a single word. To help you get started, I'll create a free custom audio sample of your book. Just message me. Send me my audiobook sample, which includes your book title, the first 2 to 3 paragraphs, and I'll send you a sample within 24 hours. Let your message be heard. Let your voice be amplified. I would like to thank you for, for listening to today's episode of Live Without Limits, the Success Shift. think like your future self. Always remember, self-sabotage is only powerful when it remains unseen. Now that you understand it, you are free to rise beyond it. I'm Davida Shinsky, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next episode. So until then, live without limits.